On today's episode of Let's Talk Drones, we are out in the field. And if you know anything about me, you know I love shooting out in the field for a few reasons. First of all, I get to enjoy beautiful weather on days like today. And second of all, we usually get to fly drones when we're out in the field. Today's video, though, we're talking about the application of the DJI Osmo Action 4 when it relates to FPV. If you've been flying with a GoPro or any other type of action camera with FPV, you know that there are some nuances to those cameras. There's also some nuances to the Action 4. We're going to touch on some of those today, so let's not waste any more time. Let's talk drones. What's up? It's Chris, the Drone Geek, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Drones. Let's Talk Drones is brought to you by the Droning Company, the #1 online resource for commercial remote pilots worldwide. Make sure you check them out online at thedroningcompany.com. Make sure you get subscribed to their YouTube channel and check them out across all major social media platforms. The Droning Company, the #1 online resource for commercial remote pilots worldwide. So I'll give you a little bit of exposition to explain why we're doing this video months after the Osmo Action 4 released. In fact, I think we're approaching a year at this point. I was flying FPV with the one, the only Sam Karp recently, and we were doing a new series for the Droning Company called FP Vlogs. And essentially, if you want a little bit of exposition on FP Vlogs, it's just us flying FPV drones, talking about FPV drones, talking about things in the world of drones, really anything in particular. It's just a hangout session between myself and Sam. So if you're interested in that, check that out on the Droning Company's channel. I digress though. While we were flying FPV, I bounced the Mark V off of a tire swing, and it actually recovered, and I kept it in the air. There was no crash. Perfectly. I mean, it's still got the same propellers on it, even. You can see that it didn't take any damage as far as the drone goes. The same could not be said for my beloved GoPro Hero 11. I smashed in the back of the screen so badly that it's unusable. Now, I'm sad about it, don't get me wrong. I love that little action camera. However, not real sad about it because I did purchase it through Best Buy and I got the warranty and it's still under warranty, so I'm gonna get taken care of one way or the other. But I still had a problem on my hands. I didn't have an action camera, and we're going into the warm season, the really nice weather season here in north central Pennsylvania, which means I'm gonna have more and more clients asking me to fly FPV during their events, around their facilities, whatever the case may be. Now, that wouldn't be a problem if I was flying a dead cat, but the fact is I'm not flying a dead cat with this drone, nor the drone I'm building back in the office. I'm flying that traditional X-frame. So the problem with that is, you can see the props in the O3 Air Unit's camera feed. So I can't actually use the O3 Air Unit on board this particular drone for anything professional, unless I'm gonna crop it in to 1080p, 9:16. Then I could do it. But even still, not practical, not an easy solution to deal with. So I made the executive decision to go out and purchase a new action camera while I waited for Best Buy to get back to me about the Hero 11. As I was perusing our local Best Buy, I came across this guy, the Osmo Action 4. I was a little hesitant about purchasing the DJI Osmo Action 4, and nothing against DJI there. They've got fantastic products and fantastic camera quality, if I'm being completely honest. It's just, I'm used to GoPro. I love GoPro. Their color science is great. Their interface is fantastic. Overall, the experience with GoPro has been positive through and through for me. I had skipped out on the Hero 9, so I didn't have to deal with those issues with the battery overheating, the camera overheating, and just shutting off randomly. I went from the 8, which was a solid action camera, to the 10, which was a pretty good action camera, to the 11, which was a fantastic action camera, and then that's what brings me here. So I've been GoPro since as long as I can remember using action cameras. Switching over to something new, a new platform, was a little bit intimidating for me because, again, I was just comfortable. However, I knew that if I was going to switch from GoPro, DJI was the way to go because I was already familiar with DJI's nuances, interfaces, and the variety of other things that you get when you choose a DJI product. So while I was a little bit unsure, I knew that if I was going to jump from the GoPro series to the DJI series, going with the Osmo Action 4 was going to be the way to go, and that's ultimately what I decided. So I'm not going to do a full-blown comparison between GoPro and DJI's action cameras. I actually want to wait until Sam Karp is back from a business trip that he's on to talk to you about those because he's actually got the GoPro Hero 12, which is the equivalent of the Osmo Action 4 on GoPro's side of the aisle. So I think it'll be more interesting and you'll get more out of it if we can see his camera in action versus this camera in action. However, what I am going to do for you is I'm going to talk about some of the nuances using two different types of action cameras with your FPV setup. When it comes to the GoPro series, one of the biggest challenges that GoPro has when it comes to integrating with a workflow that includes FPV drones is that when you consider the way that people are consuming content now, it's a lot of portrait style content. We've gone from landscape to portrait with the inception of Instagram Reels, TikToks, even Facebook Reels, and YouTube Shorts. So the ability to swap between landscape for more professional projects or long form content to portrait mode hasn't been easy for the FPV community to do when it comes to using GoPros. If you're shooting both long form landscape and short form portrait content with your FPV drone, you have a real challenge on your hands here because you're forced to do one of two things to collect both sets of content. You either need to physically remount the camera back and forth and back and forth and back and forth from portrait to landscape to portrait to landscape. You get the idea, to be able to capture all of the content you need, which is inefficient and time consuming, or you need to settle with a digital crop, which means you have the camera mounted in landscape and then the camera itself actually crops in 9:16 on that image digitally. Now, the problem with that is, first of all, if you're flipping back and forth, again, like we said, it's inefficient and time consuming. If you do the digital crop method, you've got a problem because you're losing quality on your video. It may not be a huge deal for you, but if it is, and it's something that can make or break a project, you can't really settle for that. And that's where I really like the Osmo Action 4. This is maybe one of the reasons that I went out and purchased it and finally pulled the trigger on it, is as you'll see here, when you purchase the adventure package, which is what I got, you get a nice little selfie stick, you get the camera, you get this nice little, you can see I popped this lever up. This is a housing that wraps around the body of the camera. You get that in there. And what that allows you to do is natively on the camera, you have two little divots there. And essentially what that does is it interacts with these mounts here. You get two of these with the adventure combo that you purchase from DJI. You'll see you have little clamps right here that push out. When you want to mount this landscape-wise, you just line that up and it snaps down into place. Pulling up on it, it's not coming up. It is totally secured. Now, taking that off is as easy as just pinching those little clamps, and it's off. With that housing that I told you about, or just showed you with that little clamp there, you also have the option to mount it via portrait mode. So now you've got a 9:16 orientation rather than a 16:9. So now you can shoot both sets of content very, very quickly. It's just a matter of landing it, disarming the motors, swapping the camera orientation, just like that, pop it back on, good to go. Jesus. The other reason that I was sort of excited to switch over from the GoPro series to the DJI series of action cameras has to do with the Osmo Action 4's ability to shoot D-Log-M at 10-bit. That is fantastic for my post-production workflow. Look, most people hire me to shoot drone stuff. So whether it's video, photo, whatever the case may be, I am the drone geek. I am the drone guy in my community. So that's what people call on me for, is to fly my drone for their multimedia projects. That is the bulk of my work. I do some handheld stuff, but for the most part, I'm working in the DJI ecosystem as it relates to my post-production. That means I'm shooting in D-Log, I'm shooting in D-Log-M, and I'm color grading that type of footage at that 10-bit level for the most part. The Osmo Action 4 integrates better with that post-production workflow. It shoots in the same type of log, it has the same color science behind it, and it's manufactured by the same company that manufactures my drones, so it makes a lot of sense to switch over to the DJI Osmo Action 4. The only thing I'm a little bummed about switching over is I have all GoPro stuff when it comes to my accessories, my ND filters, etc. So I've got to sort of start from zero when it comes to that if I decide to stay with the Osmo Action 4. Time will tell on that one. Now, I'm not saying that GoPros don't have excellent color science. They absolutely do. And in fact, that would be completely contrary to what I believe. I think GoPro is one of the best in the game when it comes to action cameras and the quality of footage that comes off of them. I'm also not saying that the GoPro Hero 12's log footage isn't as good as the Osmo Action 4's, that D-Log or D-Log-M that DJI offers. What I'm saying is, I can save time in my post-production workflow by just shooting in the same settings on this camera as I do my photography cameras like the Mavic 3 and the Mini 4, and just integrate them into my post-production workflow and copy those styles over and over and over again that I couldn't necessarily rely on in post with GoPro. It takes a little extra work to integrate those into my DJI workflows, and especially my mixed media workflows where I include my Blackmagic cameras, where I include the other drones that I have. You get the picture. So that gives you an idea as to why I switched over, why I'm giving this a shot, why I'm gonna try the Osmo Action 4. Let's put this in the air for the very first time and see especially how this mount holds up, because this is one of the chief reasons, like I said, that I switched over, is the ability to swap back and forth between portrait and landscape mode. So I'm gonna be very interested to see, does the Osmo Action 4 actually live up to its billing, and can it handle freestyle flight with this mounting system? Let's find out. Okay, so first flight went really well. Camera stayed attached, and we got some really great footage out of it too. So I'm really excited about how this is working out so far. The real test though is gonna be flipping this over on its side in portrait orientation to see how it handles being in a more vertical position than a horizontal position. When we decrease that center of gravity, or we actually increase how tall the camera stands, then all of a sudden we've got a completely different dynamic, and we do have maybe, potentially, some more volatility in how the camera is mounted. So let's go ahead, let's flip this over on its side. We'll do that for you on camera right here, right now. Get a snap, pull it just to test. We're good to go. Let's get this thing in the air. Okay, no problems there either. We were able to keep the camera attached, mounted to the top in portrait mode, despite the fact we did a barrel roll, we did an aileron roll, we did some back flips, front flips, we chased the tractor, we did some dives. It still stayed attached, which to me just validates exactly what I've been saying about this setup, and the reason why I've been thinking about switching over for quite a while now, but now that I've got the opportunity, I'm giving it a shot. So let me get these goggles off, get this controller off, put the drone away. Let's talk about what we found here. So despite my apprehension, I was correct. The mounting system is way more efficient, way more convenient when it comes to the Osmo Action 4 on FPV drones. All you need to do is get those little mounts that they have and put them into your GoPro adapter. You're good to go on the drone. It'll hold it in landscape mode, it'll hold it in portrait mode. Now, this is my first video with this camera. I've had it for about 48 hours at this point. I was just too excited not to get out and try it for the very first time, and I wanted to make a video about it for two reasons. First of all, I was pumped to see if it actually would be more convenient in an FPV setup, but I also haven't made a video in a while. So I owed it to you. I needed to get out and make a video, and I thought this was a pretty good one to start with after taking that 2-week break after being in San Diego for a week. It was a mess the last 2 weeks getting caught up after being away for so long. So I am back. Really excited about this. My conclusion is this is a good decision. Initial review, first time using this camera in an FPV application. Good decision to go out and buy this. I can't say that I hate GoPros, definitely not by any stretch of the imagination. I love GoPros. If you've got a GoPro, you've got a great action camera for FPV. But when it comes to convenience in both the shooting and the post-production process, I have a feeling this is gonna pay dividends long term. So practical application on the FPV drone, pass for sure. Next video we do about this particular camera with FPV drones is going to be integrating the footage from this camera into a workflow that includes footage from other DJI cameras. Mine are gonna be the Pocket 2, which is what I'm filming with right now, as well as the Mini 4 Pro and the Mavic 3. We're gonna integrate some of the footage we shoot with this into that to see just how easy it is to get this footage into your workflow, and takes a lot of the labor out when it comes to color matching, as well as grading to match clips from different platforms. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up icon down below. It helps me out a lot, helps get this video out into the algorithm to more viewers like yourself. If you really love this video and you love drone content shot by drones, about drones, and for drone pilots, my friend, this is the channel for you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and while you're at it, make sure you hit the bell icon too. You'll get a notification every time I post a new video. That was a little bit sloppy on the outro there, so I apologize for shaking the rust off. Until next time, I'm Chris the Drone Geek, and I am out of here. See ya.
Yo, what you say? Steady screaming, YOLO, rockin' polo, we the fight.